Thank you everyone for joining us in this great webinar. We are retaking the great webinars this year, so our first guest this month is Jan Brosek, and we expect to be having one presentation each month. So I'd like to present to you to Jan Brosek. Jan will be talking about our several topics, among them the guideline development tool and some questions from the audience. So welcome, Jan, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on the time zone that you are in. I thought that the agenda or the structure for today would be the following. The first, in the beginning, we would answer a few questions that you sent us about grade approach in general, and then answer a few questions about the software that the grade working group has to facilitate preparation of the evidence profiles and summary of findings tables. And if you would like, we could do a quick walk through the new software that we are preparing. But before that, feel free to ask any questions that you still may have, and we will try to answer them. Carlos will be collecting the questions, so if you could post them on the chat here. Carlos will be collecting the questions, and we'll try to answer them in the sequence. Okay, so for today, we received a few questions about grade. One of the questions was how to actually convert standardized mean differences to numbers needed to treat. In other words, how to express the continuous variables, outcomes measured as continuous variables on different scales, summarized in meta-analysis using the standardized mean difference approach, and how to now present them. There are several options. These options are laid out in the grade paper in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology, the 13th in the series of guidance that grade provides how to use the system. On the screen you have the reference to this paper. There are so these methods that grade is suggesting are listed there and explained their benefits and downsides. One of them, in short, would be as using a rule of thumb for effect sizes, suggested by Cohen, the person who has created this approach of calculating effect sizes or standardized mean differences. It has many limitations. It does not always actually hold true. The very crude interpretation of small, moderate, or large effects are not always true if we use this rule of thumb. This is probably the worst way of doing this, but if we don't have resources or knowledge how to do anything else, that's probably better than nothing. Another approach is converting this standardized mean difference or effect size into a known familiar instrument. For example, there are several instruments to measure the depression in people, but one of them is, let's say, the Beck's scale is commonly used, and clinicians and patients and others have some feeling what certain changes in that scale mean, how many points change of how many points would be important and how big the difference is and so on. People have, because they use it, they have some understanding on this. So so what one could do is reconvert the effect size or standardized mean difference back into that scale and present it this way. This approach has some limitations as well. There are several assumptions that are made, but it's probably more informative than the first approach. The third approach is actually the one that the question was about, which is transformation of standardized mean difference into a binary outcome. And that is, there are several methods of doing it, of transformation to odds ratio, and then we can calculate the number needed to treat. There is, they are all listed in this, the paper that I mentioned, the grade guidance, the 13th paper in the series. And in details, they are discussed in the paper published in International Journal of Epidemiology in 2012, and there is a link to this paper displayed on our screen. There are several methods mentioned there, and most of them are performing quite well. There is one of them that I crossed with red, with a red line, which does not perform very well, and the authors emphasized this, that this method should not be used. The other four methods have some limitations, some benefits of using each of them. They are discussed both in the paper and in the grade paper in the series. In the Cochrane handbook and in the handbook for the Grade Pro, the previous software, we have suggested the third method, the one that was suggested by Toshi Furukawa a few years ago. But the other three methods are probably equally good, and according to statisticians and the authors of the paper, all four can be used with a probably benefit for the readers because expressing the standardized mean difference in that way as a dichotomous outcome or NNTs may be beneficial for people for understanding of the information. The second question that we received was the question about. So before I go to the second questions, do you have any comments or any questions about the first one? If you do, please type them. Okay. I usually will be waiting about 10 seconds, and if I don't hear from Carlos that you're asking the question, then I will proceed. We can always revisit them later. The second question that we received was which outcomes to present, and an example was mortality or survival. In other words, there are outcomes that can be presented as beneficial one or the bad one in a sense. So survival, mortality, myocardial infarction and no myocardial infarction, and improvement on the scale and actually deterioration on the same scale, and so on and so on. So we can flip each of the outcome from the beneficial to the harmful the same way. Now the question is which one to use. And the detailed question was about can we actually, if we have information about mortality, can we flip the effect measure and present it as survival? There is a longer answer, but the short answer is it depends on what is the measure of the effect. If the measure of the effect is an odds ratio, that's okay. because odds ratio of mortality is actually equal to the 1 over odds ratio of survival. In other words, one can flip odds ratios and have flip odds ratio of mortality and actually have the odds ratio of survival, that they will be equal. This is not possible for if the effect measure is a relative risk, because the underlying maths is different. So the relative risk of mortality is actually not equal to the inversion of relative risk of survival. So one cannot just flip relative risk and say that if, say, relative risk is 0.9 of mortality, it is not true that the relative risk of survival would be 1 over 0.9. But that would be actually true for odds ratio. And the particular question we received was about hazard ratios, and can you actually flip hazard ratios? And the underlying logic is exactly the same as for relative risks. One cannot do it because hazard ratio of mortality is not equal the inversion, the 1 over hazard ratio of survival. And for the relative risk, if one has a 2-by-2 table, one can actually calculate what is the relative risk of survival. If we have the numbers, we can actually recalculate it. For hazard ratios, if one does not have the raw data about all the patients and the time to event and so on, if we only have hazard ratio of mortality, one would not be able to actually calculate hazard ratio of survival. There is no simple formula to do it. One has to have raw data to recalculate it. In other words, the choice between presentation, if it's mortality or survival, will depend on the data that is available. What makes more sense to present to the readers, but at the same time on the information that is available to us. If we do not have enough information, and in the case of hazard ratios, we almost never have it unless we have individual patient data, then its recalculation is not possible. So these were the few questions that we received from you for this particular webinar that are not related to guideline development tool or to Grade Pro. Before we go to the topic of this webinar, which is the software, the Grade Pro or the guideline development tool, I just wanted to draw your attention to the very recently compiled and published guideline development checklist. For short is GDC. You can find it on the website of the Mac Grade Center, and the address, the URL is presented on your screen at the moment. It is the CEB, which is for Clinical Epidemiology and Biostatistics, our department, grade.mcmaster.ca. And you don't have to actually remember the guidecheck.html because there will be a link to this checklist on the main screen. So it's the only thing you can, if you want to have a look at it, just remember CEB grade.mcmaster.ca, and you will be able to see the checklist. The checklist is a very comprehensive list of items. There are over 140 items in 18 groups that were collected by our colleagues by surveying guideline developers, surveying guideline developer handbooks, and other methods to compile a list of things that people do or should do or could at least should consider if they should not do it when they develop guidelines. And they are grouped in the categories that you can see on the screen, and they are really covering the whole process from the very beginning, from organization of the group and the guideline, securing the budget, and setting priorities for the guidelines, group composition, and so on. For the whole process of guideline development and finishing at dissemination and implementation strategies and evaluation of the guideline use, and actually updating the guideline. So for those of you who are interested, I recommend the CAB grade McMaster.ca. The question, we have a few questions. One is about Grade Pro for Mac, and we will answer that very shortly. And the other one is whether we promote implementability and evaluation of the guidelines with standard formulation of the recommendations. Yeah, if I understand the question correctly, yes, the grade suggests or recommends standard wording of recommendations with very clear meaning of their strength, which also has implications for implementability. One would differently look at the implementation of so-called strong recommendations compared to the recommendations that are just conditional. In other words, whenever there is a strong recommendation, this can be, in most cases, adapted as a standard of care or something that people should do, unless there is a good reason not to do it. And the conditional recommendations, when guideline panel is not that sure about the balance of benefits and downsides of doing it, it would be those that are probably not very good for direct implementation. They would require several conditions to be met, which have to be specified, and so on. So before we go to the question you have on the screen, which was asked in the emails before, I will like to answer the question about Grade Pro and Mac. Yes and no. There will not be Grade Pro for Mac, and we will not continue developing the Grade Pro, the version that some of you or all of you were used to, one that is still available to download for Windows. This version will still remain available, but we will slowly cease to support it, and we will replace it with a web version, which is independent on the platform, on the operating system. It's a website on which you can answer through the web browser. In other words, it doesn't matter if one has a Mac or if Windows or Linux or any other system. It works on iPads, iPhones. We checked it on Android tablets as well, and wherever one has a browser, it will work. Of course, it is better tested with some browsers, and it's not that great tested with some other browsers. So at the moment, we would suggest that if you want to do it, please try to use either Google Chrome or Safari. These are the two browsers that are well tested and stable. The Firefox should work okay. There will be problems with Internet Explorer, especially the older versions, and these are related to the fact that the Internet Explorer does not really support all of the functions that are specified in these today in the technology that we use today for developing websites. In other words, some Internet Explorer may not understand some of the code of the website and will not display it. We will test it. We will make it work on Internet Explorer. But this is the hardest part and the hardest browser to support, and that's why we are leaving it for later. So this leads us to the question when to start actually using the GDT rather than Grade Pro. I would say start using it now. There may be, if you encounter any problem, we will be very grateful for your feedback. We think that most of the functions, or if not all of the functions that were available in previous Grade Pro for creating a table, summary of findings table, or the grade evidence profiles, they are there and they are functional. There are some interface design specific issues. For instance, if the button to insert a footnote is on the left or the right side, or it is within the cell or outside the cell, and so on, that may change or will actually change very soon, because this is a usability issue that we are testing on users at the moment, and these will be the changes that you can expect. But unlikely that you will see the changes in how the tables are created. So I think you can start using them right now. There are several questions that we received about the technical issues with Guideline development tool, which is the online version of a former Grade Pro. They are related to some other functions, not creating summary of findings tables or grade evidence profiles that were available in Grade Pro, but actually most were related to generating questions and sending email to Guideline panels. Some of you have experienced the problem with sending an email. Then when you press the button to send the emails were not sent or were sent a day or two later. This was related, if you have done it during the last 2 weeks, it's probably related to the fact that we have been migrating the whole system, the whole server from some servers in one country to completely different computers in a different country, and you may actually have experienced this because some of the functions were not working for some time. There was another issue that I will not go into details that we already solved, and which was related to the filtering of spam, because those many emails sent from one account were identified as spam by some of the servers on the internet. But we solved that issue as well. So this function should be working properly, and if it's not working properly today, it will certainly work properly this week, because we discussed it with the programmers, and they promised to fix it as soon as possible. There was one question about resetting the passwords, and the programmers also answered to that this will be possible. It is on the list of things to do, and they will try to do it this or next week as a priority. If you have any other technical issues, I suggest that you send them directly to the developers. I will show you how to do it very soon. Now the last question is really, If you have any other questions for us regarding the GDT or the Grade Pro or the grade system in general that you would like answered right now, before we go and have a quick walkthrough to the new software for those of you who have not used it or those who used it but have some problems finding the functions. Okay, so if you were, if there are no more questions, or if you have any questions that you will like to ask, later, please email them to Carlos or to the so they may be answered during the following webinars if you believe these questions are maybe interesting to a larger audience. These are very particular questions about the certain particular aspects of your work. Feel free to send them either to me or to Carlos or to anyone in the grade group that you know that you believe that person can help you. So let me now try to share my screen with you and show you a little bit of the tool just for a. So let me log out first. So we will go through the whole process together. If you visit the website, the first time you visit the website, you will go to, let me go to the website. Okay, the first time you go to the website, you will see a screen like this, which the URL is www.guidelinedevelopment.org, and this is the URL for the new GDT Guideline Development Tool that will include functionality of the Grade Pro and other functions on top of this. This tool will do all of that the Grade Pro has been doing. They will help us create evidence tables, grade evidence tables, summary of findings tables for Cochrane reviews, and some other formats that are currently being developed in the project funded by the European Community. That is a grade group project called DECIDE. And the aim of this project is to develop presentations of information for different stakeholders, patients, clinicians, policymakers, those who make coverage decisions, and other groups in healthcare. So probably very soon, within a year from now, there will be final presentations of information or templates for presentation of information like summary of findings tables or grade evidence profiles. They will be available in the software, and they will be user tested and tested in randomized trials actually of presentations and real guidelines. That's the scope of this project, this DECIDE project, and they will be available. Some of them may be available sooner than that. There will be the purpose of the tool is actually to simplify the process of creating guidelines, and it helps us generate questions, helps us generate outcomes, and populate the tables for presentation, for decision making. The purpose of this tool actually was born from the observations that we had, that the guideline groups most of the time don't struggle with the question how to create how to do a systematic review, but rather what is the process of that they have to follow to develop a guideline. What this tool has is intended to do is actually to guide people through the whole process. There will be also a possibility of creating some other outputs of the guideline, so preparing it for publication, but also publishing the guideline on the website, an interactive website that will follow the format of the presentation that I just mentioned, that will be the result of this DECIDE project. So there will be possibility of creating the content of the guideline for different stakeholders, presented differently for different stakeholders. There is also already a possibility of creating a mobile phone app from a guideline that will again follow the presentation formats that are being developed in the DECIDE project. The new tool already interacts with Revman 5 the same way that the Grade Pro interacted. One can import the Revman file with and all the information that is importable from Revman file into the GDT, add the judgments about quality of evidence and other judgments, and then either export the SOF file, the intermediate file that can be imported into Revman. And this is very helpful for those who actually do a Cochrane review, and their review is stored on the Cochrane server, the RT. But there is also a possibility of exporting it directly to a Revman file, just creating a new file with all the tables inserted in it. There will be more integration with Revman probably in the future, but this is still being discussed with the developers of Revman. How do we do it? And it needs some changes on both sides, on the Revman side and the GDT side. All the information at the moment you can store on your computer, but it's also backed up on a server, on a central server in the cloud. So even if you lose your computer or information on the computer, you actually don't lose the data, which is an added benefit at the moment. For some groups that don't want their information to be stored in the cloud, they are concerned with security. There will be also a possibility of installing the server in their own premises, but that will be a special function probably for larger organizations that require that degree of security. As I mentioned, it's independent of the operating system, and can be also used online and offline. This offline functionality, of course, one will not be able to synchronize with the server this way, but it will synchronize once one goes online again. But the modern websites actually enable us to use the website offline, and there is a special plugin that one can download for Chrome that enables one to use it offline. One can also use it offline when being online. One starts working online and then goes offline and continues working. This will work with even if we don't have any plugin installed on the computer. There is currently an effort to translate the presentation of the results of the GDT, in other words, the tables, and also the interface into several languages. As part of this DECIDE project, we will translate it into Spanish, Dutch, French, German, and Italian. Some of this translation has already started, so these at least Spanish versions should be available soon. There will be probably an Arabic version as well. That will depend on the need. Because as we learned, most of the colleagues in speaking Arabic actually also speak English when it comes to medical terminology. Then there simply may not be no need to translate it into Arabic. But if we will be talking about presentation for patients, these particular presentation formats actually may need translation to Arabic as well. There is ongoing effort to translate it into Chinese at the moment as well. The basic functionality of the GDT, which is creating the tables and things that we mentioned, creating the evidence profiles, the summary of findings tables, interacting with Revman, and everything that we had before. The tool is free. Some of the extra add-ons that will be developed by various people in the various groups and can be developed virtually by anyone, because most of the code will be known, and interaction with the software will be known. There will be specification how to do it. So some groups may be able to actually develop extra add-ons that, especially for large organizations that require special functionality that most of other people don't require. These probably will be commercial products at some point, but it may not be. There may be some of us who will be developing them for free as well. We intend to keep this Grade Pro or GDT with the functionality to create all the grade output and Cochrane output completely free forever, and that's the goal. And at least parts of it will be available as an open source. So the other groups may actually write the plugins to this one. When you go for the first time that you try to log in, you have to create your login, provide your email. This is if you log in, please provide a real email. It's not to track you. It is to actually be able to respond to your questions. And if you send us feedback from within the software, we will be able to respond to your feedback or to your questions. If you provide some funny whatever test email, we will simply not be able to contact you. So that's the reason why we are asking for it. This will is kept in a secure and how does one say that you encrypt an encrypted place, and it's not being shared with anybody. We don't even look at the emails. The emails are being sent automatically with a response, and you create your password. I already have an account, so I will go to mine. Of course, if you log in the first time, you don't have any projects. The list is empty, and you have an option of either starting a new project or importing a project, either from Revman file or from the old Grade Pro file. In other words, if you created some of your previous work in the previous Grade Pro, you will be able to import it to this tool and continue working on it without any problem. So let's choose one of the. Let's start a new project. Let's call it. I will use some of the files that I actually created before. for one of the systematic reviews that we produced, and that was of using long-acting beta agonists in patients with asthma. I'll just for short call it LABA, and I will put test on it, so I will remember that this is not a real project that I'm working on. It's been created successfully, and so I may add either the management or the diagnostic question. The diagnostic questions were not available in previous version of Grade Pro. At the moment, one has an option to actually ask the questions whether one test compared to some other test should be used to diagnose certain condition, and then present the information in the way that we currently suggest. Again, in one of the papers from the GRADE working group about presentation of information for diagnostic tests. It is based for diagnostic accuracy and the presentation of outcomes in form of consequences of true positives, true negatives, and false positives and negatives is possible. That presentation, the further step, the last step of actually converting the diagnostic accuracy and merging it with the information about the effects of treatments and modeling how the real patient outcomes like mortality and morbidity, adverse effects, and so on will be affected by using one or the other test. This presentation is not available yet. Not because we have not programmed it, but we simply don't have the right presentation in the GRADE working group. We are working on this and should be ready with at least some suggestion very soon. There is one suggestion already available. We are working on better presentation, easier presentation of this information for decision makers. But that should be available in the software within the next few months. When we create a new project, these questions, we can again import them actually from a file. I can choose my revman file, and from this file, if I open it, there are several comparisons in my file. I will choose only the first one because this is the one that I'm interested in importing, and I will import it. I know that this has been imported successfully, and you can also see there is a question here: should steroids compared to steroids and long-acting beta agonists be used in patients with asthma who were controlled on a combination of those agents? Once we click on it, this is the table that the view of a summary of a GRADE evidence profile. If you would like to see the summary of findings table, you would, at the moment at least, click this eye icon, which is for view. This icon may be slightly different soon when we have finished the user testing and we will learn from the users that this icon is not is or is not. We don't know yet. Intuitive. So one can switch actually to the summary of findings view, the Cochrane presentation, or some other versions of GRADE profile and summary of findings tables. The idea is that one can actually work in a mode when whatever one can see, one can is actually what one can get in the end. There is no more any special pains to edit it. If we want to edit certain cell, we just click on the cell. So let's say for this non-invasive mechanical ventilation outcome, there are 5 studies. We want to change it to some other number. We just click on the cell, and we can change it to a different number. For study design, we click in the cell, and we can check either randomized trials of various types of observational studies. It is less important from the GRADE approach point of view, what kind of observational study it is, but from the point of view of presentation of information, it may be important because of, let's say for case series, there is no control group, so it makes no sense to have to present control group risk. For cohort studies, there is a different way of presenting information than, say, from case control studies. So that's why we choose the study design here. But what is important is really that it's observational study, at least on the larger grade level. Let's say these were randomized trials. We can choose risk of bias that was either not serious, serious, or very serious, normal, anything exactly the same way as in the grade approach and the previous grade pro. There is an additional function for assessing directness. We either can make a decision that it's serious or not serious and so on, or actually assess directness and document our thinking about the directness of the evidence. We are asked to make notes about what do we think is the population in the study similar to the one that we are actually thinking about when doing the review or for the guideline purpose. Same for the interventions and comparator the outcomes, if they were measured in the way that they are measured today. And we may make judgments about each of those separately. So let's say the population is direct, yes, but the intervention, there were too low of a doses, so we think, oh, maybe it's probably direct, and so on. We can make those judgments, and this is being saved. And in a year or two from now, when we are asked why we make that judgment, or it comes to updating the guideline, we will not be able to recall, and we will not have to go actually for the whole process again. All the judgments will be why we decided something, that information is direct or indirect, will be recorded and explained. And the final judgment based on those choices is, let's say, that there is no indirectness, the same is for imprecision and other factors, for about publication bias, the large effects of the factors for upgrading the evidence. One can choose whether there is a large effect or not. There is plausible confounding that will change the effect or dose response rate, the standard grade criteria, and this is so we can make the judgments and we can see what we have done. The information imported from Revman is here. There were 5 studies altogether. There were no events. In other words, we cannot actually calculate for this particular outcome but there is at least high quality evidence that this doesn't happen in. So of course it is not high. We would downgrade it for precision and other reasons. I have not done this. Sorry. So that's basically the idea is to edit in the cells so we can actually see what we are editing while we do it, and we see how the table will look like once we finish it. If we choose that there is actually some serious problem, we will be asked to provide a footnote. I have switched this function, but there is a possibility of switching on or off the forced explanations. So if I check it on, and I will change something to there will be I will be asked to provide an explanation or a footnote for my judgment, and I can enter some footnote here and save it, and it will be assigned to this particular field. You can see again what you see is what you get. There is a footnote to the series, and there is a list of footnotes. We can view them and edit them if desired. So this is what previous Grade Pro has been doing as well. The new functionality will be possibility of adding some tasks, and so to remember with a calendar where should I let's say complete SOF, and there will be a date when we should do it of the deadline, and then it shows in the calendar then actually on the 15th of February I should complete the summary of findings. So kind of a project management tool that will probably be expanded a little bit. There is a team management module that lets us add members of the team that may be guideline panel members and some collaborators that I will also have to provide whatever email because it will not accept the name without an email. And the purpose is that we can actually send emails from within the software to the person, or send emails to the whole group asking them, for instance, about to fill the forms about conflicts of interest, which there are several forms at the moment are the WHO and International Medical Journals editors forms available. They can be sent, people receive an email, they answer to that email, fill in the form, and then submit it. And from within the software here, the person who is doing it will see that this red turns into green, so this person has filled the form, and we can actually see what the conflicts of interest of those people are that they have declared, and the guideline panel chairs can determine who of the guideline group has a conflict for each of the questions, and they should either be excused from decision making for the particular or recuse themselves, or some other management of conflict of interest depending on the organization. There is a scope module in which we have at the moment possibility of just describing the scope and actually generating the questions, and that is the module that some of you already used and experienced the trouble of sending emails due to our migrating of the server recently. But we can actually write a list of initial questions that we think should be in the guideline. Should A versus, say, B be used for some condition? We save that question. We could add more of the questions and send it and finish it, this initial list, and send it to the group members for brainstorming. In this phase, we would ask, it has been sent, and people will have a link, group members will receive a link to actually add new questions, something that is missing from the list but they believe should be answered in the guideline. Brainstorming phase. In the next, once they finish it, we receive all the questions that they added. Nobody added anything because we have not done this, but we now, whoever is managing the project, can actually edit those questions, delete some of them which are duplicates, or group them in certain logical groups that are about prevention and treatment and something else, and then send to the group for prioritizing. When people receive again, email with a link, there will be a matrix of questions, and the scale for priority setting will be from 1 to 9, let's say, 1 being least important for the guideline to answer, and 9 being the most important question in the guideline. So in order to have a ranking of the questions to answer in the guideline and choose which we should address and which can be left for later or not addressed at all. And we can go for, so in the end there will be a list of questions, and the final decision based on the ratings. Of course, we don't have the ratings here, but the final decision of the person managing it may be that it should be answered in the guideline, should be listed as something that we found important but did not answer in this particular edition of the guideline, or actually to exclude the question from the guideline because most of the people that were asked thought that this question is not important. And these questions, once they can be, the final list is sent for approval, and if people approve it, actually the questions, all the questions are transferred to the new module, and one can edit the tables for those questions in the. There will be similar possibility of doing the outcomes generation and rating, and some other functionalities will be added as well. If we look at these comparisons module with the questions, you can see that there is a evidence table, but there is also recommendation sections that include so-called evidence to decision table, which is a way of going from this evidence to recommendations, asking several questions about actually the balance of benefits and downsides, and the certainty about the values and preferences themselves, the resources, the equity question, the applicability and feasibility of, and then based on all those considerations, the guideline group is asked to formulate the recommendation, to decide what the recommendation will be, and formulate it, and provide extra information. So this is a structured way of going from evidence to decision or to recommendation. Before we are nearing the hour, I would like to draw your attention to one of the icons, which are these two gloves. They are not actually gloves. This is for sending us feedback. And if you click this icon, you can choose that if it's a bug or a suggestion for improvement, a question to us, or some other feedback, you can write your feedback. And whatever, so ask your questions, tell us what you like us to improve, what is the bug that you have, something not working for you, and if you feel this is important, you can check this check mark here, and then the screenshot of the window of the browser window that you are working on at the moment will be attached to this and sent to us. So if there is a particular thing that you want to show us, okay, that in this particular field something doesn't work, or see what happened on my screen, please attach the screenshot. And I would, unless you have a good reason not to attach the screenshot, I would encourage you to send it always. It's much easier for the developers of the software to understand the problem when they actually see what has been happening when the problem occurred, rather than they have to guess from your description. There is a possibility of exporting it. At the moment, one can export chosen questions to an HTML file that will open in your browser, and you can copy and paste it to Word, like any other web page. There is also a possibility of printing it in a PDF format, and these functions are working quite well. They will be improved, and there will be a possibility of exporting directly to a Word document in the near future. I believe this is the short walkthrough. I probably missed a few things, but I think in general this is what the software is doing, is capable of doing, and what functionality is available at the moment. If you have any questions, please send us feedback using the gloves about these gloves here, or it's actually thumb up, thumb down, or sending to either to me directly or to Carlos if you don't have any other email address of ours. We'll be happy to answer all your questions. So, thank you very much for your participation in the webinar today. I hope it was informative for you, and I encourage you to use the software whenever you create the tables. It helps us a lot, and it's actually my request. If you could do it, please use it, and please send us feedback as much as you can. That helps the developers to improve the tool that we use. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Jan. Well, I hope you can join us the next month. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send it to my email or the social media channels I already posted here. So thank you, and we'll see you on the next month. Stay tuned.